The massive space station called Nexus Prime floated in the dark void between stars. It was bigger than any moon, made of strange metals that glowed with soft blue light. Inside its crystal halls, creatures from across the galaxy gathered for the most important meeting in 1,000 years. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of Terragard, Earth's newest orbital defense station. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes that had seen too many battles. The communication screen in front of him crackled with static as an alien transmission came through. "This is strange," said Lieutenant Amy Foster, the young communications officer. Her fingers moved quickly over the control panel. "Sir, we're getting a signal from somewhere very far away." "It's not from any human colony." Jake stepped closer to the screen. The image cleared to show a creature unlike anything humans had ever seen. It had purple skin, 4 arms, and eyes that glowed like stars. When it spoke, its voice was translated by the computer into perfect English. "Greetings, humans of Earth. I am Speaker Vexthul of the Galactic Council. We have been watching your species for some time. Tomorrow, we will decide your fate." The transmission ended, leaving Jake and his crew in shocked silence. Dr. Lisa Chang, Earth's top scientist for alien life, arrived on the bridge minutes later. She was a small woman with quick movements and an even quicker mind. "Admiral, I need to see that transmission," she said, breathing hard from running through the station corridors. "My team has been tracking unusual energy signatures all week. I think they're connected to this message." Jake played the recording again. Lisa watched with growing worry. She had spent her whole life dreaming of first contact with aliens. Now that it was happening, she felt only fear. "They said they've been watching us," Lisa whispered. "For how long, and what do they mean by deciding our fate?" On the other side of the galaxy, Nexus Prime buzzed with activity. The Great Council Chamber was a massive dome made of clear crystal that showed the stars beyond. Creatures of every shape and size took their places on floating platforms that hung in the air like islands. The Zelanti looked like tall, thin humans but with silver skin and no hair. They could read minds and considered themselves the smartest beings in the galaxy. Their leader, Kethver, floated on a platform of pure energy below them. The Korath scraped across the floor with bodies made of living rock and metal. They were older than most stars and built cities that lasted for millions of years. Their speaker, Dokmar, had a voice like grinding stone dot in the center of the chamber. Beings of pure light called the Lumina danced in patterns that hurt to look at. They had no solid form, but could destroy entire worlds with a thought. The Lumina rarely spoke, but when they did, all other species listened. There were others too. The insect-like Kithura with their clicking languages, the water-breathing Pelagians in their floating tanks, and dozens more. Every major species in the galaxy had sent representatives to this meeting. Speaker Vexthul called the session to order. He was from a species called the Hive, creatures that shared one mind across millions of bodies. When he spoke for all of them at once. "We are here to discuss the humans of the planet they call Earth," he announced. His voice echoed in the crystal chamber. "Our scouts have studied them for 50 of their years. The report is troubling." A hologram appeared in the center of the chamber, showing Earth in all its blue and green beauty. Then the image changed, showing human cities, human wars, human rockets reaching for the stars. "In just 200 years, they went from riding animals to splitting atoms," continued Vexthul. "In 50 years, they went from their first powered flight to walking on their moon. They multiply faster than any species we have seen. They consume resources without limit. They fight wars that destroy entire continents." Kethver, the Zelanti leader, raised one of his 4 arms. "I have touched their minds from across the void. They think thoughts of violence and conquest. They dream of spreading to other worlds, of taking what is not theirs. They are dangerous." Dokmar, speaking for the ancient Korath, added his voice. We have seen species like this before. They grow too fast, want too much, destroy everything they touch. If we do not act now, they will become a threat to the entire galaxy. The Lumina beings pulsed with angry light. One of them spoke in a voice like singing crystals. We have existed for 10 million years. We have seen the rise and fall of 1,000 civilizations. The humans show the same patterns as the destroyers of old. They must be stopped before they can spread. Back on Terra Guard, Jake Morrison tried to sleep but couldn't. The alien message played over and over in his mind. He walked to the observation deck and looked down at Earth. The planet looked so peaceful from space, with its swirling white clouds and deep blue oceans. Captain Ryan Blake found him there an hour later. Ryan was younger than Jake, with bright eyes and the kind of smile that made people trust him. He had been Jake's friend since their days at the Naval Academy. "Can't sleep either?" Ryan asked, joining Jake at the wide window. "I keep thinking about what that alien said. Deciding our fate. What gives them the right?" Jake's voice was quiet but angry. "Maybe they're friendly. Maybe they want to help us," Ryan suggested, though he didn't sound like he believed it. Jake shook his head. "Did you see the way that creature looked at us? Like we were insects, like we were something to be stepped on." Down on Earth, Dr. Julie Chun was working late in her laboratory. She was Lisa's cousin and one of the world's best doctors. She studied diseases and how to cure them. Her young daughter Emma was asleep in the corner of the lab, curled up on a small bed Julie had set up for nights like this. Julie's computer chimed with an urgent message from her cousin. The message was simple but terrifying. "Aliens are real. They're coming. Prepare for the worst." Julie looked at her sleeping daughter and felt her heart break. Emma was only 8 years old, with bright eyes and dreams of becoming a space pilot. What kind of world would she inherit? On Nexus Prime, the debate continued through the night. Species after species spoke against humanity. The aquatic Pelagians told of human pollution destroying their own oceans. The inscented Code Kithara spoke of human pesticides that killed without mercy. Even the peaceful plant beings called the Verdani voted against Earth, saying humans cut down forests without thought. Not one species spoke in favor of humanity. The vote was unanimous. 347 species all agreed that humans were too dangerous to remain free. "The decision is made," announced Vexthul as the Great Chamber fell silent. "The humans of Earth will be placed under galactic supervision. They will serve the greater good of all species. Their aggression will be controlled. Their expansion will be stopped. They will learn to live in peace, even if they must be forced to do so." The transmission went out across the galaxy within hours. On Terra Guard, Jake Morrison received the message with growing horror. The aliens were not coming as friends or teachers. They were coming as conquerors. "All defense stations, this is Admiral Morrison," he said into his communicator, his voice steady despite the fear in his heart. "Prepare for invasion. This is not a drill. Humanity's freedom is about to be put to the test." But even as he gave the orders, Jake knew it was hopeless. How could one small planet fight against 347 alien species? How could humanity survive when the entire galaxy had voted for their enslavement? The answer would come sooner than anyone expected. 5 years had passed since the great ships came from the stars. Earth looked very different now. The blue skies were often gray with smoke from the massive mining machines. Where once green forests covered the land, now giant metal structures dug deep into the ground, searching for minerals the aliens needed. Lieutenant Colonel Sam Rodriguez crawled through the dark tunnels beneath what used to be New York City. The tunnels were old subway lines that the aliens had forgotten about. Sam and his team had turned them into hiding places for the human resistance. Sam was a thin man with scars on his face from the war 5 years ago. His hair had turned gray early from the stress of watching his world die. Behind him crawled Amy Foster, who used to design rockets for NASA before the aliens came. Now she spent her days building bombs from stolen alien parts. "The patrol schedule changed again," whispered Danny Williams, a former Marine who still moved like a soldier despite the years of hiding. "The Korath guards now check the old museum every 2 hours instead of 4. Sam nodded. The aliens were getting smarter about human tricks. It was getting harder to move around the city without being caught. Anyone found outside the work zones without permission was sent to the punishment camps. No one ever came back from those places. They reached their destination, a hidden room behind a broken wall. Inside, 30 other humans waited in the dim light of stolen energy cells. These were the survivors, the ones who refused to give up hope even when everything seemed lost. "Any news from the other cells?" asked Sam, looking around the room at faces marked by hunger and exhaustion. "Chicago went dark 3 days ago," said Maria Santos, a former Special Forces soldier with hard eyes. "We think the Zelati mind readers found them. Boston is still active, but they lost half their people at a raid last week." Sam felt the familiar weight of despair settle on his shoulders. For every small victory, they suffered 10 defeats. But he couldn't let his people see his doubt. They needed him to be strong. Above ground, Dr. Nina Parker walked through the research facility where she was forced to work. The building used to be a university where she taught physics to bright young students. Now it was a prison where humans were made to solve problems for their alien masters. Nina was a quiet woman who had once believed that science could solve any problem. The aliens had taught her how wrong she was. They forced her to work on new weapons, better ways to control human populations, faster methods of strip mining planets. Every day she helped make the galaxy a little more cruel. But Nina had a secret. In her mind, she memorized everything the aliens showed her. Every formula, every design, every weakness in their technology. She carried the knowledge like a hidden flame, waiting for the day when it might be useful. The Korath supervisor, a creature that looked like walking stone, approached her workstation. Its voice sounded like rocks grinding together when it spoke through the translation device. "Human Nina, your work on the energy collectors is acceptable. You will now begin research on atmospheric processors. Your species' former home of Australia will be converted for mining operations." Nina's heart broke a little more. Australia, where her sister lived. Where her sister had lived. She didn't know if her family was still alive. The aliens didn't let humans communicate with each other. Unless it was about work. "I understand," she said quietly, keeping her face blank. The Korath could see emotions in human faces, and showing anger meant punishment. High above Earth, on one of the alien prison stations, Admiral Jake Morrison stared out through the clear metal at his home planet. The blue and green world he remembered was becoming brown and gray. The aliens were killing it slowly, sucking out everything valuable and leaving behind empty scars. Jake shared his prison with other human leaders who had tried to fight the invasion. General Frank Moore sat in the corner, still wearing the torn remains of his uniform. He had aged 20 years in 5, his hair now completely white. "They want us to watch," Frank said quietly. "That's why they keep us alive. They want us to see what they're doing to our people." Dr. Carol Lewis, who used to run the government space program, looked up from the alien computer terminal she had been studying. The aliens let her use it to read news reports about Earth. They thought it would break her spirit to see humanity's defeat every day. "I've been learning their language," Carol whispered. "The computer system isn't as secure as they think. I can access some of their communications." Jake moved closer. Carol was one of the smartest people he had ever met. If anyone could find a weakness in the alien systems, it would be her. "What have you learned?" he asked. "They're afraid," Carol sighed, her eyes bright with the first hope Jake had seen in years. "Not of us now, but of what we might become." They talk about something called the Precursor War, an ancient race that fought the entire galaxy and almost won. What does that have to do with us? I'm not sure yet. But they see something in humans that reminds them of those ancient warriors. That's why they were so quick to enslave us. They're not just being cruel, they're being careful. Back in the tunnels beneath New York, Sam Rodriguez was planning his next operation. His team had found a weakness in the alien supply line. Once a week, transport ships brought food and equipment to the work camps. The ships were guarded, but not heavily. The aliens thought humans were too beaten to fight back. "We hit the transport tomorrow night," Sam told his team. "Amy, do you have the explosive charges ready?" Amy nodded, showing him a small device that looked like a metal box with wires. "This should be enough to disable their shields. But we'll only have a few minutes before their reinforcements arrive." "That's all we need," said Danny Williams, checking his weapon. "Get in, take what we can, get out, same as always." But Maria Santos looked worried. "The mind readers have been more active lately. What if they're expecting us?" Sam had thought about that too. The Zelanti could read human thoughts from a distance, but only if they were actively looking. Most of the time they were too busy managing the slave camps to bother with random mind scans. At least that's what Sam hoped. That night, as Sam lay on his thin blanket trying to sleep, he thought about his daughter. Lucy had been 10 when the aliens came. She would be 15 now, if she was still alive. He didn't even know which work camp she had been sent to. The resistance cells tried to keep track of families, but it was almost impossible. The aliens moved people around constantly, breaking up any groups that might form bonds. They understood that humans fought harder when they had something to protect. Meanwhile, in a work camp in what used to be Colorado, 8-year-old Emma Chun tried to lift a piece of mining equipment that was too heavy for her small arms. The Vex overseer, a creature with too many eyes and clicking mandibles, watched without emotion as the human child struggled. Emma's mother, Dr. Julie Chun, worked at the other end of the camp. The aliens kept families separated during work hours. Julie had been a disease specialist before the invasion. Now she spent her days sorting rocks and metals for processing. Every night, Julie would hold her daughter and whisper stories about the time before the aliens came. Stories about forests and animals, about humans who flew among the stars, about a world where children could play and laugh and dream. "Will it ever be like that again, Mama?" Emma would ask. Julie would stroke her daughter's hair and lie with all her heart, "Yes, baby. Someday it will all be like that again." But deep inside, Julie felt her hope dying a little more each day. The aliens were too strong, too advanced, too many. Humanity had been broken and scattered. The resistance fighters were brave, but what could a few hundred rebels do against 347 alien species? What Julie didn't know was that in hidden laboratories and secret meetings in the minds of brilliant scientists and the hearts of stubborn soldiers, something was growing. The humans were learning. They were adapting. They were planning. The aliens had made one mistake. They thought 5 years was enough time to break the human spirit. They thought enslavement would make humans give up their dreams of freedom. They were wrong. The transport ship landed at the work camp in Colorado with a loud rumble that shook the ground. Emma Chen, now 13 years old, watched from her place in the sorting line as alien guards stepped out of the vessel. She had grown tall and thin. Over the years, her eyes holding a hardness that no child should have. Her mother, Julie, stood nearby, also watching the transport. These ships usually brought supplies or new workers. Today felt different. The guards looked nervous, and their leader, a tall Zelanti with silver skin, kept scanning the minds of nearby humans. "Attention work units," the Zelanti announced, his voice carrying across the camp through speakers. "New orders from the Galactic Council. Half of all human workers will be relocated to off-world mining operations. Families will be separated based on work efficiency ratings. Julie felt her heart stop. She grabbed Emma's hand and pulled her closer. Around them, other families were doing the same thing. Parents held their children tighter. Husbands and wives reached for each other. Those selected for off-world assignment will report to the transport ships in 1 hour, the Zelante continued. Resistance will result in immediate execution. Emma looked up at her mother and saw tears in Julie's eyes. Mama, what does off-world mean? It means other planets, baby. Very far away planets. Emma was smart enough to understand. If they were sent to different planets, they would never see each other again. The thought made her feel sick and angry at the same time. The selection process began immediately. Alien guards moved through the camp with lists of names. Emma watched as her friend Kevin was pulled away from his father. She watched as Mrs. Patterson was separated from her twin sons. The sounds of crying and pleading filled the air. Emma Chun, called a guard. Report for off-world assignment. Julie stepped forward, her body shaking. Please, she's just a child. She can't survive on a mining world. The guard, a Korath made of living stone, looked down at them with eyes like glowing coals. Children adapt quickly. She will be useful. No, Julie said, her voice growing stronger. I won't let you take her. The guard raised his weapon, but Emma stepped between them. It's okay, Mama. I'll be brave. I'll find a way back to you. As the guards led Emma away, Julie screamed. It was a sound of pure pain that cut through the air like a knife. Other parents joined in, their voices rising together in a song of grief and rage. But something else was happening. The screaming didn't stop. It grew louder and angrier. Humans who had been silent for years suddenly found their voices. The sound spread from the Colorado camp to facilities across the planet, dotting the tunnels. Beneath New York, Sam Rodriguez heard the reports coming in over stolen communication devices. Work camps everywhere were reporting the same thing. Families being torn apart, children being sent to die on distant worlds. This is it, Sam said to his assembled team. This is the moment we've been waiting for. Amy Foster looked up from the explosive device she was building. What do you mean? They've pushed too far. They've given us something we haven't had in 5 years. What's that? Asked Danny Williams. Angry people. Lots of angry people who have nothing left to lose. Sam was right. Across the planet, humans who had accepted their slavery were suddenly ready to fight. The alien mistake was simple. They had tried to break the one thing that made humans most dangerous. They had attacked human families. In her hidden laboratory, Dr. Nina Parker received a coded message from the Resistance. It was time to share what she had learned. She had spent 5 years studying alien technology in secret, memorizing every detail of their weapons and defenses. Nina made her way through the facility's corridors, her heart pounding. She carried a small device that contained everything she had learned about alien shield technology. If she was caught, she would be executed immediately. She reached the maintenance area where a Resistance contact waited. The man was Paul Thompson, a former engineer who now worked as a janitor. He had been passing information to the Resistance for 2 years. The shields have a frequency gap, Nina whispered as she handed him the device. Every 12 seconds, they cycle through their protective barriers. For exactly 2 seconds, they're vulnerable to high-energy particle beams. Paul's eyes widened. 2 seconds? That's not much time. It's enough. I've also figured out how to build human versions of their energy weapons. We can make them from parts in any electronics factory. As Paul disappeared into the shadows, Nina felt something she hadn't experienced in years: hope. The knowledge she had protected was finally going to be used. High above Earth, Captain Ryan Blake was no longer in an alien prison. He was hiding in a secret mountain facility in the Swiss Alps, surrounded by other military officers who had been presumed dead for years. The facility was built inside a mountain and hidden from alien sensors. Ryan had spent the last 5 years secretly training pilots and upgrading old military aircraft with any alien technology they could steal or salvage. "Sir, we're getting reports of uprisings starting worldwide," reported Lieutenant Michelle Jones, one of his best pilots. "The resistance cells are asking for air support." Ryan looked at his small fleet of modified aircraft. They weren't much compared to alien ships, but they were better than nothing. More importantly, they were human-built and human-controlled. "How many birds do we have ready for flight?" he asked. 12 fighters and 6 bombers, all equipped with the new shield generators and energy weapons we've been developing. Ryan nodded. "Then it's time to see if 5 years of preparation was worth it." In China, Colonel Liu Wei was having the same conversation with his own hidden forces. The Chinese military had never fully surrendered, instead going underground and building secret bases in remote mountains. Liu Wei had been in contact with resistance cells worldwide, sharing intelligence and coordinating plans. When the uprisings began, he was ready. "Launch Operation Dragon's Breath," he ordered his officers. "Target all alien communication arrays within 50 kilometers. We need to blind them before they can call for reinforcements." Similar scenes were playing out across the planet. In Russia, Dr. Alexei Petrov was leading a team of scientists who had been secretly developing new weapons. In Britain, Navy SEAL Ben Murphy was coordinating strikes against alien supply lines. The coordination was impressive. Humans who had been separated by oceans and continents were working together with a precision that surprised even themselves. The first strikes hit alien facilities at exactly midnight, Earth time. The timing was perfect. Most alien commanders were asleep or in their rest cycles. The humans had studied their routines for years, waiting for this moment. In the Colorado work camp, the uprising began when Julie Chun refused to let go of her daughter's hand. The Korith guard raised his weapon to strike her down, but suddenly the camp's lights went out. In the darkness, the sound of explosions echoed across the facility. The alien shields flickered and failed as resistance fighters used Nina Parker's frequency data to disable them. Emma Chun watched in amazement as her mother grabbed a metal tool and struck the Korith guard. The creature stumbled, its stone body cracking under the impact. "Run, Emma!" Julie shouted. "Run and don't look back." But Emma didn't run. Instead, she picked up a piece of broken metal and joined her mother in the fight. Around them, other humans were doing the same thing. 5 years of anger and pain exploded into action. The alien guards were overwhelmed. They had weapons and armor, but they were facing thousands of desperate humans who had finally decided that death was better than slavery. In orbit above Earth, Admiral Jake Morrison watched the planet light up with explosions and fires. The alien prison station he was on shook as human ships appeared from nowhere, attacking with weapons that shouldn't have existed. "How is this possible?" General Frank Moore asked, staring at the displays. Dr. Carol Lewis smiled for the first time in 5 years. "We're not the same species they enslaved. We've been learning. We've been growing. And now they're about to find out what happens when you push humanity too far." The war for Earth's freedom had begun. 6 months after the Great Uprising, the galaxy looked very different. Human ships now traveled between the stars, carrying weapons that alien species had never seen before. The creatures that once saw humans as simple slaves were learning to fear the sound of human voices on their communication channels. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the captured alien ship that was now called the Liberation. The vessel had been taken during a daring raid on an alien supply depot near Mars. Human engineers had spent weeks figuring out how to fly it, but once they understood the basics, they made it better. "Sir, we're receiving a distress signal from the Cathara system," reported Communications Officer Tyler Brooks. He was young, maybe 25, with the kind of quick mind that made him perfect for breaking alien codes. Jake looked at the star map. The Cathara were an insect-like species that had been enslaved by the Zelanti for over 300 years. How many Zelanti ships are in that system? Sensors show 12 heavy cruisers and about 40 smaller vessels, answered Sarah Johnson, the ship's tactical officer. But sir, we're also detecting something else. The Cathara are fighting back. Jake smiled. This was happening more and more across the galaxy. Species that had been enslaved for centuries were seeing human victories and deciding to fight for their own freedom. Set course for the Cathara system. It's time to make some new friends. Back on Earth, Dr. Nina Parker had become the most important scientist in human history. Her laboratory was no longer hidden in an alien facility. Instead, she worked in a massive underground complex where hundreds of human scientists studied captured alien technology. The quantum field generators are working perfectly, she told Dr. Carol Lewis, who had been freed from the alien prison station 3 months earlier. We can now build ships that are faster than anything the aliens have. Carol studied the data on Nina's computer screen. How much faster? Our ships can travel between star systems in days instead of weeks. We're not just matching alien technology anymore. We're surpassing it. This was the secret that was changing everything. Humans didn't just copy alien technology. They improved it. They made it better, faster, stronger. The aliens had created weapons to control the galaxy. Humans turned those same weapons into tools of liberation, in the Cathara system. Admiral Morrison's small fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel to find a battle already in progress. The insect-like Cathara had somehow obtained weapons and were attacking Zelanti ships with desperate courage. Open a channel to the Cathara vessels, Jake ordered. The screen flickered, showing a creature that looked like a giant mantis with multiple arms and compound eyes. When it spoke, the translation came through as a series of clicks and buzzes. Unknown ships, identify yourselves. Are you here to help the Zelanti slavers? This is Admiral Morrison of the human fleet, Jake replied. We're here to help you fight for your freedom. The Cathara leader's eyes seemed to glow brighter. Humans? We have heard stories of your rebellion. Is it true that you defeated the Korath mining fleet? It's true. And we're here to help you defeat the Zelanti. The battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Human ships moved with impossible speed and precision, their weapons cutting through Zelanti shields like paper. But what surprised the Cathara most was that the humans didn't just destroy their enemies. They also rescued Cathara prisoners from the Zelanti slave ships. Why do you help us? Asked the Cathara leader after the battle was over. What do you want from our people? Jake thought about the question. We want you to be free. That's all. Free to live your own lives, make your own choices. The Cathara leader was quiet for a long moment. In 300 years, no species has ever said those words to us. The Zelanti took our freedom. The Korath took our resources. The Lumina took our young to serve as soldiers. You are the first to offer us something without asking for payment. Freedom isn't something you should have to pay for, Jake replied. It's something every thinking being deserves. Word of the battle spread quickly across the galaxy. On the great space station Nexus Prime, the former Galactic Council was meeting an emergency session. But now instead of 347 species, only about half that number remained. The others had either been defeated by humans or had joined the human. Alliance. Speaker Vex Thiel looked much older than he had 5 years ago. The hive-mind connection that made his species so powerful was being disrupted by something the humans called psychological warfare. Human broadcasts were reaching hive worlds, telling individual members that they could think for themselves. The humans have taken 17 more systems this month, Vexthal reported to the remaining council members. They're not just defeating our military forces. They're turning our own people against us. Kefver, the Zelanti leader, was even more worried. They're doing something to our mind-reading abilities. We can't penetrate their thoughts anymore. It's like they've learned to hide their intentions. This was true. Dr. Nina Parker had discovered that human brains could be trained to resist telepathic intrusion. Human soldiers now practiced mental exercises that made their thoughts invisible to alien mind readers. The ancient Korath leader, Dokmar, spoke in his grinding stone voice. Perhaps we should negotiate. Offer them their freedom in exchange for peace. It's too late for that, said one of the Lumina energy beings. They don't want just their freedom anymore. They want to free everyone. Every slave, every oppressed species, every world under our control. Back on Earth, Captain Ryan Blake was training a new generation of human pilots. His secret base in the Swiss Alps had become a massive military academy where young humans learned to fly captured alien ships. Remember, he told his students, speed isn't just about going fast. It's about thinking fast, reacting fast, making decisions fast. The aliens have better weapons, but we have better reflexes. One of his students, a young woman named Lisa Ward, raised her hand. Sir, why are we better at this than they are? They've been flying in space for thousands of years, Ryan smiled. Because they've been doing the same thing for thousands of years. They stopped learning, stopped growing, stopped trying to improve. We've been doing this for less than a decade, so we're still figuring out new ways to do it better. This was becoming obvious throughout the galaxy. Human tactics were unpredictable because humans didn't follow the standard rules of space warfare. They tried things that no sane species would attempt. They took risks that seemed suicidal but somehow worked out in the Pelagian system. Commander Kate Sullivan was leading a rescue mission to free the aquatic Pelagians from their underwater prison cities. The Lumina energy beings had enslaved the Pelagians for their ability to process certain chemicals needed for space travel. The Lumina think in patterns, Kate explained to her team as they approached the water world. They expect us to attack from space. Instead, we're going underwater. The human ships had been modified with equipment that let them dive beneath the ocean surface. The Lumina were so surprised by this tactic that they didn't react until it was too late. This is impossible, transmitted one of the Lumina commanders. Ships cannot function underwater. This violates the basic laws of physics. Human ships can, Kate replied as her forces destroyed the underwater prison facilities. We don't worry much about what's supposed to be impossible. The freed Pelagians were amazed by human technology. Their leader, a creature that looked like a giant dolphin with hands, spoke to Kate through the water. How did you modify your ships to work in our oceans? It asked. We studied your people's natural abilities and copied them, Kate explained. We learned from you, then used what we learned to help you. This was another thing that made humans different. They didn't just defeat other species. They learned from them. Every species that joined the human alliance made humanity stronger by sharing their knowledge and abilities. The news of each victory spread quickly through the galaxies. Communication networks. Dr. Carol Lewis had finally cracked the alien internet completely, and she was using it to broadcast messages of hope to enslaved species everywhere. This is the voice of free humanity, her broadcasts began. We were slaves like you. We were told we were too weak to resist. We were wrong. If we can fight for our freedom, so can you. And when you're ready to fight, we'll be there to help you. The effect was electric. On worlds across the galaxy, species that had been enslaved for centuries began to rebel. The humans provided weapons, training, and most importantly, hope. The great galactic empire that had lasted for thousands of years was crumbling, and everyone knew it. The question was no longer whether humanity would win. The question was what they would do with their victory. The massive space station Nexus Prime had never seen anything like this. Hundreds of human ships surrounded the ancient structure, their weapons pointed at the crystal walls where the Galactic Council once ruled over 347 species. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at the place where humanity's enslavement had been decreed 7 years ago. "Sir, we're receiving surrender signals from multiple alien vessels," reported Tyler Brooks from his communication station. "The Korath battle fleet is requesting permission to surrender. The Zelanti mine ships have powered down their weapons." Jake nodded slowly. It had taken 2 years of fighting across the galaxy to reach this moment. 2 years of liberating enslaved worlds, freeing oppressed species, and showing the galaxy what human determination could accomplish. "Open a channel to all ships in the area," Jake commanded. "This is Admiral Morrison. Any vessel that surrenders now will be treated with respect and dignity. Any vessel that continues to fight will be destroyed." On the crystal walls of Nexus Prime, Speaker Vexthul watched the human fleet with growing despair. The great space station that had once been the center of galactic power was now surrounded by the very species they had tried to enslave. "How many council members are left?" He asked his aide, a younger member of the Hive species. 43 species have joined the Human Alliance," the aide replied. 67 have been defeated and occupied by human forces. 112 have surrendered unconditionally. Only 25 species remain loyal to the old council. Vexthul felt something his species had never experienced before: complete defeat. The hive mind that connected all his people was fragmenting as individual members chose to think for themselves. The human broadcasts had taught them that they didn't need to share one mind to be strong. Deep inside Nexus Prime, in the same crystal chamber where humanity's fate had been decided, the remaining alien leaders gathered for what they all knew would be their final meeting. Kethver, the Zelanti leader, looked even more silver than before, his 4 arms shaking with age and fear. "The humans are requesting a meeting. They want to discuss terms." Dokmar, the ancient Korath, made a sound like grinding stones. "Terms? We are in no position to demand terms. We are defeated." One of the Lumina energy beings pulsed with dim light. "Perhaps we should have listened to the warnings about the precursors. The humans show the same patterns, the same abilities to adapt and grow. The precursors destroyed themselves," Kethver pointed out. "Maybe the humans will do the same." "No," sighed Vexthul quietly. "The humans are not the precursors. There's something else, something we never expected to see again." An hour later, the alien leaders found themselves in the same chamber where they had voted to enslave Earth, but now they sat at a simple table, waiting for their former slaves to arrive. The doors opened, and humans walked into the chamber. "Admiral." Jake Morrison led the group, followed by Dr. Lisa Chang, the scientist who had first studied alien communications. Behind them came other humans: Captain Ryan Blake, Dr. Nina Parker, Dr. Carol Lewis, and many others. But there were also non-humans. In the group, the insect-like Kithara leader walked beside a Pelagian in a water suit. Former slaves now stood as equals with their human liberators. Jake Morrison looked around the crystal chamber, remembering the transmission he had received 7 years ago. "This is where you voted to enslave my species," he said simply. "Yes," Vexthul replied. "We believed you were too dangerous to remain free." "You were right," Jake said, surprising everyone in the room. "We were dangerous. Dangerous to your system of slavery and oppression. Dangerous to your empire built on the suffering of others." Dr. Lisa Chang stepped forward, carrying a datapad with information she had gathered over the years. "We've learned a lot about the galaxy since our enslavement began. We know about the species you've oppressed for thousands of years. We know about the resources you've stolen, the freedoms you've destroyed." Kethver tried to use his mind-reading abilities on the humans but found nothing. Their thoughts were protected by techniques Dr. Nina Parker had developed. "What do you want from us?" he asked. "We want you to listen," Jake replied. 7 years ago, you made a decision about humanity without asking us what we wanted. Today, We're going to tell you what happens next, and you're going to listen." The alien leaders shifted uncomfortably. They were used to being the ones making demands, not receiving them. Dr. Carol Lewis activated a holographic display that showed the galaxy. Hundreds of star systems were marked in different colors. The blue systems are free worlds, liberated by human forces. The green systems are independent worlds that chose to join our alliance. The red systems are still under the control of the old council. As you can see, Jake continued, the red systems are now a small minority. Your empire is finished. Dokmar spoke in his stone-grinding voice. So you will enslave us as we enslaved you? No, Jake said firmly. We're not like you. We don't believe in slavery. The alien leaders looked confused. Vexthal asked, "Then what will you do with us?" Dr. Lisa Chang smiled. "We're going to give you something you never gave us. We're going to give you a choice." She activated another display showing a document written in multiple alien languages. This is the Charter of Galactic Freedom. Every species in the galaxy will have the right to govern themselves. No species will be enslaved by another. No world will be strip-mined without the consent of its people. And if we refuse? Asked one of the Lumina beings, Captain Ryan Blake. Step forward. Then you'll face the consequences of your refusal. But it will be your choice to make. The alien leaders read through the charter in stunned silence. It was unlike anything they had ever seen. Instead of demanding tribute or territory, the humans were offering protection to any species that agreed to respect the freedom of others. "You're serious about this?" Kethver said slowly. "You really intend to give up your military advantage?" "We're not giving up anything," Jake explained. "We're sharing it. Every species that joins the Alliance gets access to our technology, our protection, our knowledge. All we ask in return is that they respect the freedom of others." Vexthal looked at the document again. "And what of species like ours? Species that have committed crimes against others?" Dr. Nina Parker answered, "You'll face justice for your crimes, but justice doesn't mean revenge. It means making things right. The Cathara have requested that the Zelante leadership work in their factories for 10 years. Dr. Carol Lewis added, "Not as slaves, but as workers earning wages to pay for the damage done to Cathara worlds. The Pelagians want the Lumina to help clean the oceans that were polluted during their enslavement," Jake continued. "Again, as workers, not slaves." The alien leaders realized what the humans were offering, a chance to earn redemption instead of facing destruction. One by one, they signed the Charter of Galactic Freedom. Some signed eagerly, grateful for the mercy they were being shown. Others signed reluctantly, knowing they had no other choice. As the ceremony concluded, Jake Morrison looked around the crystal chamber one last time. 7 years ago you voted unanimously to enslave Earth. Today, we're giving you the chance to vote for something better. A galaxy where freedom isn't something you have to fight for. A galaxy where every thinking being has the right to choose their own destiny." Outside Nexus Prime, the human fleet began to disperse. Some ships headed back to Earth, carrying news of the victory. Others traveled to newly liberated worlds, helping former slaves build their own governments. On one of those ships, Emma Chun stood at an observation window, looking out at the stars. She was now 18 years old, a graduate of the military academy Captain Blake had built. Her mother Julie stood beside her, both wearing the uniform of the Galactic Freedom Alliance. "Do you think it will work, Mama?" Emma asked. "Do you think the galaxy will really be free?" Julie smiled and put her arm around her daughter. "I think humans have proven that impossible things can happen when people refuse to give up hope." As their ship jumped to faster-than-light speed, heading toward their next mission, the stars themselves seemed to shine a little brighter. The age of galactic slavery was over. The age of galactic freedom had begun.